Have you ever felt like you were doing everything right? You're eating better, maybe even working out, but the fat just is not going away. Most people tend to think they're in a fat loss phase when realistically they're not even close. And in this video, I'm going to show you exactly why that happens and how to fix it fast. To quickly give you some context, here is usually what happens and what this kind of situation really looks like. So usually you start trying to get into better shape. You're cleaning up your diet, you're putting in effort, maybe even you're hitting the gym, but after a few weeks, nothing seems to change. And usually at this point, people tend to start guessing. Do I need less food? Do I need more cardio? Am I just doing something entirely wrong? And the truth is, this is not random or accidental by any means, and there are actually three very, very simple reasons why this is happening. And once you understand these three, fat loss becomes a lot more predictable and a lot easier to stay consistent with and maintain long term. Now, real quickly, before we actually dive into these three things, you need to understand one very important thing, and that is that your body only burns fat when it actually has to. That's it, and that is the entire game when it comes to losing fat. Because truthfully, your body has two options. First off, to use the food that you eat as fuel, and second off, to use your stored body fat as fuel. And if it keeps on getting enough food, it will just use that instead, which means even if you're trying, nothing is going to change. And that leads me directly into the first reason, which is honestly the biggest one and usually the worst one that most people want to avoid. Because most people are truthfully just eating way more than they think they are. Even if the food is healthy, you can eat very, very clean, you can eat only whole foods, cut out all of the junk, eat a perfect diet, and still not lose fat. This is the biggest point where people really get confused because in their head, they're thinking, well, I'm eating better, so I should be losing fat, right? But your body just does not work like that. It doesn't care how clean the food is, how perfect your diet is. It only cares about how much it's actually getting when it comes to fat loss specifically. So let me explain it like this. Imagine your body is like a car with two sources of fuel. The first one being the food that you eat, and the second one being stored body fat. Now, if you keep on filling up that tank with food, your car will never need to touch that backup tank. And your body works the exact same way, okay? So if you were always giving it enough energy through food, it never needs to tap into that stored fat as a source of energy. And this is where most people tend to really mess up because they think that if they just fix what they eat, if they eat cleaner, if they are eating only whole foods and cut out the junk, then they're finally going to lose weight. Now, the problem here lies in the fact that yes, they are fixing what they're eating, but they're never fixing how much they're eating. So then they stay stuck in the exact same place because truthfully, food can still stop fat loss if you are eating too much of it. Realistically, you could lose weight only eating McDonald's and Burger King. It's terrible for you, don't get me wrong, but if you eat a very, very little amount of it and nothing else, you are going to lose weight and lose fat as a result. The same thing goes with healthy food. And it's a lot easier when you're eating healthy food because you're getting more satiated, you get better nutrients, and it's better sources of fuel where you are going to be able to perform better off of it. So that way you can eat less, but if you're still eating a ton, it's going to be difficult to stay consistent and stay on track. Now, the second reason, this is probably the easiest one, but it is that you are simply not consistent enough. And most people are just not consistent for a long enough period of time. Because yes, you can do very, very well for a few days, maybe even a week, but then something happens, you eat more, you get off track, and you try to fix it again. But the thing is, if this pattern keeps on repeating, then you need to realize that fat loss is not going to come from what you do sometimes, all right? You can be consistent, 5 days out of the week, but then if you really fall off those next 2 or even one day, you really, really throw yourself off, then you're not going to see progress. Fat loss absolutely comes from what you are doing the overwhelming majority of the time. That means, 7 days a week, not just 5, not just 6, the overwhelming majority. So let me make that even simpler to understand because take it as if, you are doing the right things half of the time. You're only going to be getting half of the results, and half the results usually kind of looks like no results at all because you have an expectation and you are not matching the expectation. So you feel stuck even though you are actually putting an effort. You're trying harder but not getting anywhere because you are simply not consistent enough to really see the changes with your body. This leads me right into the third and final reason because if you want to stay consistent, you want to manage how much you're eating, the quality of what you're eating, then you need to have some form of structure. And the biggest thing that I see when it comes to people who are struggling with fat loss, myself included in the past, is that you are simply lacking structure. If you are guessing every single day, what to eat, how much to eat, when to eat, and because of that, nothing is staying controlled. Some days are good, some days are off, but nothing is repeatable. And if nothing is repeatable, then nothing is going to improve. Nothing is going to stay consistent, and nothing is going to get you where you want to go. Because if your diet changes every single day, then your results are not going to. And this is why a lot of people end up feeling really, really stuck because they're trying, they're putting in effort, but every single day it looks different, so nothing is able to build over time. They can't compound that consistency and they cannot see the results they want as a result of that. Here's why this is actually happening because most people try to fix this fat loss problem by having, more rules, more restrictions, more complications, just adding more things and making their life more strict and more difficult. But that actually makes it so much worse because the harder your plan is to follow, the harder it is to stay consistent. And if you can't stay consistent, nothing's going to work in the first place. It doesn't matter how perfect your plan may be. Thankfully, because of that, though, the fix is actually extremely simple because all that you need is a basic structure that you can repeat every single day. So that means mostly whole foods, Building your meals around a source of protein, it means watching how much you're eating, just being conscious. You don't have to track every single calorie and macro. I personally never do myself. And keeping your meals similar each and every day. Most importantly, you need to be doing these things consistently because simple absolutely works if you actually stick to it. Most people try to overcomplicate it, but realistically, that is the complete opposite way that you want to go about it. Now, I was in the exact same position myself a few years back because when I first started, I thought that I needed the perfect diet. And once I simplified everything, I stopped changing things around and just focused on a few things and doing these properly, consistently over and over again. That is when I really started to see results. I want you to finally remember here that most people are not failing to lose fat. They're not incapable about it. And it's not because it's hard, but just because they're making it far too complicated for themselves. It's not something that they can stick to, and it's not something that is going to get them consistent results they can also importantly maintain long term. If you are not losing fat, don't think in your mind that it is because you can't. It's just because your body has yet to be given a reason to really change. It's because you keep on filling your stores up with food, giving your body other sources of energy, and it does not need to tap into that fat store that you want to just tap into. If you want to see how all of this is really put together, my full system when it comes to training, nutrition, recovery, lifestyle, absolutely all of it, I've broken it all down for you in a step-by-step video in the description below, so you can watch that if you're interested. And finally, if you do want help applying these things to your own situation, there's also a way to work with me down there in a link below too. Hopefully you enjoyed this video and you actually learned something from it. I'll see you in the next one. Peace.